Welcome to Closers or Losers. We did it. Now, as a reward for you, for our audience, and for the help we've done for you as well, we've created a montage that features some of the best content we've had in the podcast so far. So we want to thank you for your support. Here's to the next shows that are going to completely take you to the next level in your business, if you're a business owner, and if you're an individual salesperson or sales executive or manager, to help take your sales career to a completely new level that most salespeople only dream about it. Cue the intro. So, when I'm training salespeople, one of the biggest things that I feel that it takes most salespeople the longest to master is their tone. Not just the questions, like we can teach them all the questions in the world, but how are they asking the questions? Because one thing we all have to realize, and I want to get your comments on this, is that when we first call a prospect, whether that's an inbound lead, whether it's an outbound lead, whether it's a cold call, whether it's in person, whether it's B2C, B2B, doesn't matter. Your prospect is picking up on verbal and nonverbal cues based on your tonality and based on what you are saying and asking that triggers them to respond in one of two ways. If you don't know how to use your tone the right way and deliver your questions, it's going to trigger sales resistance and it's going to trigger objections very quickly. Want me to save money on my utility bills. She's not going to say, no, she wouldn't want me to start a business where I can make more money. He's not going to say that. He's like, oh, I think she'd be on board. I think she'd really like that. And here's where we're going to challenge that. Well, but what are you going to do though if you go to her about getting the funds to invest into starting your own business and then she doesn't want you to? What would you do then? Now, why would I want to say that?
Because you want to figure that's where you're really going to figure out. First of all, it's going to get him into problem solving mode, right? Yep. So then he's like, okay, what am I actually going to do? And it's going to give us a good insight into whether it's a genuine logistic. Because if he says, well, I'm going to move forward anyway, then we can just move forward today. But if he says, well, we have a pact, it's part of our relationship that I do not make decisions over X amount without running it by her, then we go, okay, like the one thing that we don't want to do is create the resistance in the relationships where it's us versus her. It's everyone working together to solve a problem.
100%. And we're going to talk about it in a second, but it's there's two parts of conscience questions. Conscience questions can be used in any part of the conversation to help prospects overcome their own concerns, to challenge them, right? That can happen in any part of the conversation. And the second format is it's asked right after your solution awareness questions. So let's take them through the process for a second. Situation questions. We help them find out their present situation, you and them, right? Your problem awareness questions help the prospects find out what their real problems are, maybe even problems they didn't know about before the call or the Zoom call or the meeting, if it's in person, what the root cause of the problems are, like how it happened, what's causing it, and then how it's affecting them. That's the key there, how it's affecting them. Then our solution awareness questions, the first half, are finding out what they've done about it in the past to change that, which helps them realize like, oh crap, I could have done something about this, I never have.
Man has a tendency to ramble on.
Sure.
And Tony goes, listen to me. It's like cutting him off. And he says, the great thing about you is, and edified him.
Sure.
But we want to know, you've done this and this and this. What we want to know is how do you do this? And he redirected him with a different question to change his focus.
I like that. I see where that's coming from. That makes sense.
So that's what it sounds tactically, but understanding the postures on a conceptual level. And then the tactics is like, listen, let me pause you there for a second. Strong. And like the great thing is giving them a compliment, combining it back to us and then redirecting them.
Yeah, so they still feel like, wow, this person cares about me and I'm great in their eyes type of thing. That makes complete sense. And it's all about, wanting your potential customers to feel tension. Now, what do I mean by tension? I don't mean by sales pressure. That's completely different. Whether you're speaking in front of an audience or you're selling one-on-one, you want them to feel tension that they want to resolve. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is you're asking the right questions that get them to psychologically take maybe problems or challenges or limiting beliefs that they have in the back of their mind, the subconscious, they buried away their dreams or whatever, and move those to their front of their mind, their conscious mind, where they feel that tension that they need to solve that challenge. Well, connecting questions, we're taking the focus off of you, the salesperson, and we're putting it on them. Because what most salespeople do when they first start talking is all the focus is on them. They're like, hi, John, I'm with XYZ company, and the reason why I called you today is blah, 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 blah. And it's like the focus is all on you trying to prove that you have something awesome. So I'm like, how do we put the focus on them and get them curious enough where they want to engage? So that's where I came up with the engagement. I called that the engagement process. That's where I came up with that. I'm like, how do I get them to engage? I remember reading a book on Socrates, and the professor's like, Socrates was the best at getting people to engage. And I'm like, oh, engage. And so it kind of like warped into the engagement stage. That's where I came up with the engagement stage. This is all crazy. This took, several years to develop. So connecting questions, put the focus on them, take it off you. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to find out what they currently have in place to solve the problem. And so I first came up with something called like background. Like I need to get their background. And I'm like, no. And I noticed another sales trainer had that. I'm like, I need to rename that. And I called it situation questions. So I want to find out what their present situation is. Okay. A lot of salespeople like talk about their present state or their current state and their future state. So I'm like, okay, what's their present situation? And their present situation is we're finding out what their situation is like now. Not really much emotion out of there, but we're finding the facts. Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here, right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're gonna help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.